Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of Talking Cardboard. I don't know if you can count to 5, but we have 5 members here today, and we are reviewing a relatively new game, Raccoon Tycoon. And we have a special edition, a bonus Pikert with Connor. I know, we're stepping up the talent here a little bit. The game we're reviewing today is Raccoon Tycoon. The reason why we invited Connor is because this is a 2 to 5 player game, and we enjoy playing it with 5 players. Raccoon Tycoon is from Forbidden Games Publishing, which is a relatively newcomer to the markets. They started up in about 2018, and this is kind of their flagship game right now. The designer, Glenn Drover, works, one of the founders of Forbidden Games. This is a really dynamic game, so before John gets into the rules, 2 words to describe it would be dynamic economy. Because we've got just so much going on with fluctuations for it. Number of players, I said, is about 2 to 5. Time minutes is about 60 to 90 minutes. We usually gone over, especially with 5 people. And without further ado, I'm going to take a breath, and John's going to explain the ins and outs of this game.
So yeah, there's not really a lot to this game. You've got these railroads you're bidding on through an auction system, and to make money to bid on these railroads, you are producing commodities that you will then later sell on this market, and the commodity prices fluctuate, and obviously buy low, sell high. Kind of the theme of the game. And then you've also got some bonus town cards you can buy with some of the commodities, and there's also building tiles that you can buy that will modify how many commodities you can have, or when you earn them, or even add victory points to score at the end of the game.
Yeah, there's
very simple rundown.
Very simple rundown to a very complex game.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's heavy, but there's just so many different ways we can win. Corey, since you've, again, played this the most.
Yeah, probably.
What are your initial thoughts on this?
My initial pro right off the bat is the press your luck element to the game. I love the whole press your luck style to it, just from deciding when to buy, when to sell, when to play a card, and when to start an auction, because that can really, looking around the table, that can really determine whether or not you're going to win a railroad at a certain price or not win it at a certain price, depending on how much money they have in front of them, and really that whole element on when to do what is what I love most about the game.
And I would like to just alter it. It's not necessarily press your luck like you're rolling dice.
No.
It's press your fortune on when you sell your commodities to maximize your money.
Because if you wait too long,
somebody else is going to sell, and it's going to lower the price.
Yeah.
So it's a very dynamic economy. And I know there are times when we are setting each other up, and I see halfway across the table somebody's got a bunch of wine bottles, and I want to sell, and I know they're going to take it from me.
It's inevitable once in a while.
Yeah. So Kayla, what are some of your pros?
I really like the way the production cards were. You know, you produce some commodities, but it would raise the rates in the other commodities, so you'd have to really weigh how you wanted to use those to produce more, so that you could sell them later for high value. That was fun. I really like the way the auction system worked. So you compete against each other to bid up. So you'd want to have the money to be able to buy these cards and pair them together to get more victory points at the end. Those are really fun.
Yeah. And I noticed, at least in the last game that we played, you had a very unique way of trying to go about scoring points that was different from, say, what I was doing, which is different from what, like, Connor, you were doing. And we all were, it's not an asymmetrical game, but we had 3 very distinct ways of trying to win.
Yeah, I think Kaler had bought into some tiles that the first tile he bought let him buy 2 buildings at a time, and then he bought into a tile that gave him a victory point per building he was buying. Yep. So he strayed away from getting railroads towards more buying buildings that would give him bonuses and provide him points at the end of the game, which was a very different strategy than we've seen before.
Yeah, it was a great combination. And Connor, what was your strategy the time that we played?
Yeah, so my strategy was just to get both towns and railroads,
and
because
just pair them up.
Once you pair them up, you actually get bonus victory points for pairing. So I was just trying to keep that as balanced as possible throughout the whole game.
And that's actually how you won, is you got a
Yeah.
bonus for all the towns.
Yeah.
We all were fighting over railroads, and you got the towns, and yeah, that won by 1 point over a tiebreaker between John and I.
But really, another pro is every strategy, every path you
Is
take is a
viable.
viable strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just so happens that Connor won doing his strategy, but it didn't have to turn out that way. It was almost what he was dealt, and he bested what he was given. And Kaler was maximizing, like he said, his buildings because he thought that was going to be his best shot at winning. So really, there's many paths, and they're all viable.
Yeah, but it's not an asymmetrical game. I know that that's kind of a fad now, is asymmetrical games, but this isn't one of them. It just has a bunch of different paths. I know another game that we recently reviewed, Wingspan, which we're going to play a little bit later tonight. It's not asymmetrical, but it has different routes that you can take that will make your game experience unique. John, what are some of your pros still for this game?
I think a lot of mine have been hit on. I mean, I love the price production cards and how you fluctuate the market, and then I just like the market play involved in the game. You know, buying low, sell high, trying to make sure you're selling before an opponent jumps in or somehow steals your commodities and sells them for you. And then, yeah, just the evolving strategies that can come up through the tiles and what you think's going to work best as you're playing the game.
So let's, I guess, go down the line for some negatives. Kaler, if you want to start with any negatives to this?
Well, some of the buildings that were in the game I felt had a very, high value for you. So they cost low but very high return on them. There's one that Corey got in this game where every time he got an auction, he would get $5. But if he didn't win the auction, he could do another auction. So he could rinse and repeat and get a lot of money that way. I felt like that was a way overvalued card.
But I did not win the game.
No, you
I
did
didn't
not
win with that. Actually, it's funny you brought that up because my neutral is that same exact thing. Some building tiles do seem more powerful than other building tiles. I know they probably spent a lot of time playtesting the design. The designer obviously knows what they're doing, and many people have it's passed hands over hands many times. But some of the building tiles did seem more powerful given the cost of the tile.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and even then, it still wasn't a end-all be-all winning strategy. It wasn't overpowered, even though some of those chains or that engine that you were building up was really easy and you were accumulating a lot of points. That still didn't guarantee a win. Yeah, because then yours with the auction house here strategy. Mine, I was just selling a bunch to get money to buy the railways, and I didn't win. So we all had very different ways, and there was no way that was overpowering. John, do you have any cons with this?
My only neutral and con kind of was the auction system. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of auction systems in multiplayer games. I'd rather have some kind of like mechanism you build into and then trade, I don't know, like commodities or money for railroads would be my preference.
So what was this auction style then? If you can explain the auction style in
And literally it's just like any, just goes around clockwise and you're all adding basically pretty much always $1 to the bid until someone's given up and conceded the victory points to money ratio that they think is acceptable.
So it's not a typical auction where it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
It's you're going clockwise around, either increasing the bid or passing, and then you're out for the rest of that item. So it's not a free-for-all, and there is some kind of gamesmanship in there, trying to figure out, okay, well, can I bid just enough so it'll put Connor over his limits, which happened a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you feel about that, Connor?
I didn't really mind it because a lot of times I had $10 and you got, I think, Kaler, you just bid $10 right away and took me out. So I couldn't even get in it. But at the end of the day, that just made me focus on other aspects of the game that I could explore, and I could really, use all those different paths to, help balance my board out and actually get me more points in the long run. So,
So not only is it strategy, but there's some tactical elements to where you need to see what other people are doing and manipulate.
maybe pivot.
Pivot.
Yeah, it's pivot, switcher strategy.
And you ended up
super
winning
fast.
this last game we
Right.
played.
Actually, I actually won because of a mission card. I don't know if we've touched on that yet.
We didn't. Yeah, explain that.
So, I don't know what all the mission cards are, but pretty much it's if you have the most railroads, you get 6 victory points at the end. If you have the most towns, maybe.
There's
Yeah.
one of those, there's
You get 6 victory
commodities and
points.
There's a
I-
huge stack of mission cards that do
Yeah.
different things.
Or
yeah.
additional points per certain
Per
commodity you
commodity.
have at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get 1 extra victory point per commodity at the end, which bumped me up by 2 points and actually allowed me to win the game.
By
but-
2 points, right?
By 2 points.
no, by 1.
Oh, by one. Yeah.
But at the same time, I had missions as a con because I don't feel like they added enough value to the game in the sense where I didn't go for the wood commodity the whole game because it was always worth it to get something else until that very last round.
Yeah. So ironically, the reason why you won was your con for the game. Very interesting. All right, so we have played this game, I think, 4 or 5 times as a larger group. I know you've probably played it more.
Yeah, a couple more than that. Yeah.
So what do you think of the replayability?
I think the replayability is kind of middleweight for replayability at the moment. I know there is an expansion coming out this year for
Yeah.
it too, which I'm hoping adds a lot to the game.
Actually, specifically, it is, and I wrote this down, June 7th of 2019. Yeah, and that's a 6th player expansion,
Couple
Fat Cat.
weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know I'm going to be buying that one right away.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will, and we are going to play it right away.
So after probably about 6 to 10 times playing, you're going to get a little bit burnt out on the system, a little bit burnt out with what you've seen in the cards that have come up multiple times. So I'm really looking forward to that expansion.
Yeah, that'll be really good.
Yeah.
John, what do you think is the depth or the weight of this game?
I'd say it's
overall?
in the middle. I mean, it's pretty lightweight. There's not a lot going on, even though it kind of looks like it at first glance. But basically, you're just trying to use your resources to get railroads and towns and match those up and play the market. So pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
Definitely straightforward. It gets into a nice rhythm. So
Yep.
it starts out kind of weighty, but then as you get into it, it is.
Yeah,
I would
once
agree.
people get those mechanics going and knowing where they're kind of set going with their strategy, yeah, it speeds up.
So do you think that would be easy to teach like your kids, or if we brought like one of
I
our?
definitely would think that this would be a range of early teenager, like my son at 13 could get it, but my 7-year-old would definitely be way over his head.
Yeah, I would agree, and I mean
They'll
one of the
say
lens.
14 plus. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it's right around
Perfect
there.
call. Almost like we planned that. And I think going off of that, the teachability, if you're into games, is definitely very approachable, easy to get into. I always look at it through the lens of teaching my wife, and I feel like this would scrape the ceiling of what she would care to invest the time in learning. Yeah, and the theme is animal related, so the art is cute and it's good to look at. It doesn't add or take away anything from it.
Dogs and cats in fancy clothes.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with that. And raccoons and skunks and bears.
Yeah,
Yes.
we get it. We get
Yeah.
it.
What other animals
There's
are in
animals.
this game?
Yeah. But they're in fancy clothes. That's the important part.
Tell us more, John.
Yeah.
And there is just enough theme in this. It's not
Yep.
like you really. I mean, the
You don't,
names. of the
yeah, you
animals
don't
are
need to
different,
know
but
much background, but yeah.
the economy is built into it, and it's not so much of a railway game, even though you're buying railroads and towns, and it is an economy game,
Yep.
which is really cool. Connor, do you want to talk about the thematic intensity at all? A little bit more.
No, I think we've pretty much covered it. It was cute. I think railways have maybe been a little overdone with a lot of board games. You know, even going back 5-10 years, it's just kind of a constant theme. So that was a little stale for me.
Okay.
But you know, like John was saying, you know, dogs and cats in fancy clothes.
Can't go wrong.
It's always cute.
So, as the player who most recently won this game, what do you think is the skill versus luck aspect of this?
Right. So, you know, I was thinking, there's a lot of paths that you can take to win, but you will never make a really terrible move in this game. It's almost low to mid skill, just because, you know, I could have sold my commodity, made money, it would have been a good move. I could have bought something, it would have been a good move.
So that's almost where I'm at with the mid luck comment that I made on here. So you've got a mid weight of luck in the game, given that as well. I mean, like Connor said, you can't really go wrong with any decisions you're making. So there is that element of some of the luck in the card draws that you get and that sort of thing that you are manipulating, almost trying to manipulate your luck the best you can to win. If you're making the correct decision every time, it doesn't mean you are going to win, though.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
But so much of it, because it is choice driven, is you get to choose how much luck or chance or how much you depend on the other players if you're playing the commodities market aspect of it versus trying to get the most railways. All right, Connor, you have the honors on a rating 1 to 10. How you feel about this game?
I give it a 6. I enjoyed the game. I just don't know if I want to play it, every time I come over here. So.
Yeah, it's totally legit.
Well, then you're not getting invited back.
Unless you pay for pizza.
Yes.
No. Pay for pizza. John, what do you think?
I actually also gave this game a 6. There are a lot of cool, unique mechanics I haven't seen in other games that I really like about this game, but for some reason the auction system just turns me off enough that, yeah, it's a fun game to play and it's unique, but not one I'd probably ever suggest.
Okay.
So.
And that's one thing you touched on. Before we started recording, we tried thinking of games that this was like, or, I even did online research. We couldn't really find any games that were enough like this to let you all know. So if you do know what games this is like, you should comment below and let us know so we can better serve you guys as the community, to create more connections between games like this. If you haven't ever played a game like this, such as we haven't, this is a brand new experience. I would rate this at about a 7.5 or an 8 because I love how dynamic it is. And I'm a big fan of game theory in that you're playing other people and you're figuring out the time when to buy, when to sell, and it's not straight based on an equation or, oh, this number's high. It's, is it going to get higher, or is somebody else going to kill the market on that? When do I bid to price enforce with other people? I love that aspect of it too, because I did that a few times. I also like hiding my money in one little stack, and I think that does that most just to bother you guys. Yeah. But then you don't know, you think I have $1 and then a few other bills underneath, and I typically got 100 stashed in there. Typically. Yeah, but I think that, and that helps me feel more confident when I'm bidding $8, knowing I got 100 underneath.
Right.
So I really like it. It's something that I'm glad we pull out and play, but it's not one of the games that I'm busting down the door and saying, all right, we got to play Raccoon Tycoon.
Yep. That
being said, if somebody suggests it, I'm definitely going to play.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Brian. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I disagree a little bit with John with the auction aspect. I actually like that this game brings the auction mechanism. Yeah, because there are other games that have auction mechanisms in them, and they're usually heavier games. So this is the first game I've actually done research on and bought and found that is a lighter game that you can pull out, knock out in an hour, hour and a half, and it has that auction aspect. I tend to like that a little bit. After playing this game, I do like the auction side of it. I love the multiple paths to victory. I love how you're making decisions on the fly and trying to read other people and when things are going to happen when. Having said that, it is only an 8 out of 10. That could raise or lower depending on how the expansion is too. I think that 8 is more heavily weighed up to that 8 based on me knowing there is an expansion coming out. How odd that kind of sounds, but I do think I am looking forward to that adding enough to the game where I think it'll be a solid 8 for a while. How about you?
I gave it a 5. I really could, take it or leave it.
Sounds like you're going to leave it.
Well, probably more of that. But I don't mind playing it. I do enjoy playing it. But it's definitely not one I'm going to suggest.
Totally fair. I actually enjoy that we are really spread out in this game because that doesn't happen a whole lot. So I like that. So overall, this was a fun game. It's dynamic. Our reviews are also dynamic on it all across the board. The one thing we can all agree on, seeing a raccoon in a nice little hat is irreplaceable. So until next time, please spay and neuter your pets and do not dress them up. Take care.